On the world's largest cruise ship, chefs can cook up to 4,000 lobster tails and 40,000 dessert portions daily to serve tens of thousands of meals.
But what happens to all of the food that doesn't get eaten?
While diners were enjoying these polished, endless buffets, I went behind the scenes on Royal Caribbean's Icon of the Seas to see what really happened to their food waste. Cruise ships bucket food waste into two main types. The first type is produced before food is even served. Kitchen scraps from food prep for the ship's 40 different restaurants, bars, and lounges. The second type comes from the food that's served, but for one reason or another, doesn't make it into passengers' mouths. To reduce this kind of waste, workers measure buffet food items before they're served. After the buffet closes, the leftover food is collected and weighed. Workers then compare how much food was served versus how much went uneaten. They use information like this to adjust the food's quantity and portion sizes.
We identify, okay, hey, a third of every steak is coming back. Well, maybe the portion size is too big, and so we may make an adjustment around that. And so there's a lot of strategy we use around that to really make decisions that don't negatively impact the guest, but at the same time reduce waste.
All of the food waste, including what's left over on passengers' plates, eventually gets sucked into food pulpers and then travels into the pipes underneath where passengers dine.
So this is where all the food waste are coming through from the various places on the ship. The pipes here goes to everywhere there is a galley, so all of these are combined and they will end up here eventually.
After it's stored, the waste then goes through a system called microwave-assisted pyrolysis, or MAPS, which we weren't really able to see, but got some footage of from Royal Caribbean. MAPS dries the waste and creates pellets that can be turned into fuel for the ship.
It's the first of its kind, first on board a ship, and allows us to produce waste energy on board a ship for the first time.
While the cruise was still testing MAPS when we sailed in January 2024, it produced,
on average, it's roughly 200 kilowatts. So because it's the first of its kind prototype, it's not as big as we would have liked, but it can run almost the entire water park.
And Royal Caribbean told me it hoped to get up to 300 kilowatts from food waste. But 200 to 300 kilowatts of energy felt like a small amount for the world's largest cruise ship. So once I got back to the office, I wanted to chat with some outside experts. Hey, Brian.
Hi, Jamie.
So how much is 200 kilowatts of energy for a cruise ship this size?
200 kilowatts is a minuscule amount when you think about the total amount of power that it takes to run this ship.
Stakes said that when the ship's stationary, it uses 10,000 kilowatts of energy and can range up to 30,000 when it's cruising at sea. That means, at best, MAPS is only producing up to 2% of the ship's total energy needs.
Cruise ships produce quite a lot of waste, and so it could be a good way to make some use of that waste and provide energy for the ship. So it's not a bad idea in theory, but I think at some point we need to think about, is there a better way to provide an experience for cruise passengers that doesn't produce so much excess and so much waste?
Part of that food waste is due to regulations. During my time on the ship, I noticed that the buffet was always fully stocked, even at the end of meal hours. And all that food has to be thrown out if it's not eaten after a certain amount of time.
As you think about the buffets, once the food goes out, it cannot be put back into use. So it needs to be used by the guests or it needs to be disposed of. And so we are required to hold that to time, which is a maximum of 4 hours of food being held within that temperature zone of 40 to 140 degrees Fahrenheit that allows us to use that safely for our guests.
Food waste is generally the biggest source of waste in just about any ship. There's energy and resources goes into producing every kilogram of food, transporting it, storing it, and then of course, if you're on a ship, using energy to cook it or heat it as well. And so that's why ships with more people often have an exponential rise in the amount of food waste they produce.
And why is it exponential?
With more choices, there's more waste per capita as well. I'm not suggesting that's the case for every cruise ship, but it's not unusual.
In 2022, Royal Caribbean Group's ships produced over 53,000 cubic meters of food waste. That's enough to fill 14 Olympic swimming pools with compressed trash. The company says that it's reduced food waste across its fleet by 24% since 2019 and aims to hit 50% by 2025.
We go to extra lengths to make sure that food waste or waste in general and that nothing goes to an actual landfill. We had a goal of being a zero to landfill waste company, and then on this ship, even taking it a step further and making sure that whatever waste we do have, we're producing energy off of it.
Obviously, you will never eliminate food waste. As much as the cruise lines might want to reduce food waste, they're trying to attract people and have them go away thinking they've had a good time where they've been well looked after. And food's a big part of that.